Good morning, everybody, and I apologize. You've been all waiting, and I had two U.S. senators upstairs that I was moderating a conversation, and you can't tell them to speed up their comments. So I apologize for holding you all up, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be with you. It's a real privilege when we have this opportunity with the Mount Fuji Dialogue that brings prominent and important Japanese leaders to Washington. Washington, for all of its sophistication, we get preoccupied with the story of the day, and we need to have leaders like Onodera-san, former Secretary of Defense, Minister of Defense. They need to come to Washington to make us think about other issues and to focus again on what's fundamental. And we're so privileged today that we have Onodera-san and Otsuka-san and Kokuba-san who are going to lead through us and help us in a conversation about probably the most important transformation in Japanese security policy that I've seen in the 43 years I've been working on this. This last year and a half was just remarkable. You laid the foundation for it, Onodera-san. But in 1 year, we're seeing a doubling of the defense budget for Japan. And it's emblematic of a deeper consciousness among the Japanese citizens that there's a security threat, and sensible investments now are going to ensure peace in the long term. That's really what's happening here. And this is an investment in peace. It's an investment in security. And we're going to hear about that. We're going to talk about that. It's very important initiatives that are underway. And we've had the privilege to interact with the Ministry of Defense in Japan, and good plans, well thought out plans. Ambitious. These are ambitious ideas that are on the table, but they're well structured. The most important thing is that this reflects Japan's new self-confidence as a leader. And this was not always the case. When I first started, we always, it was kind of that old story about a big brother, little brother kind of stuff. Well, we're now twins, we're side by side in an important initiative which is to provide security and confidence throughout Asia. We've got 3 leaders here today who are going to carry us through a conversation about these plans. So, are you going to introduce them separately, Chris, or? Okay.
I'll do a brief introduction, sure.
Are they all coming? Why doesn't everybody come on up now? Why don't you all welcome everyone with your applause as they join the stage?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hamre, for those opening remarks. And everyone, good morning. I'm Chris Johnstone. I'm Senior Advisor and Japan Chair here at CSIS, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our 3 distinguished guests from the Diet for what's really a very timely discussion on Japan's national security strategy. As everyone here no doubt knows, the government of Japan released 3 strategic documents late last year: a new national security strategy, new national defense strategy, and a defense procurement plan that really can only be described as remarkable and unprecedented in their scope, demonstrating Japan's commitment to its own defense and to contributing to regional security in new ways. We're extremely grateful to be joined by our guests today, and I will introduce them briefly. Next to me is Onodera Itsunori, a member of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or the LDP, representing Miyagi Prefecture in the House of Representatives. He was previously the Minister of Defense and remains a key leader on defense strategy. He was the chair of the LDP's Research Commission on security, which very much paved the way for the strategies that were released late last year. You were with us, Onodera Sensei, exactly a year ago to preview the key themes that were shaping the defense policy the debate at the time, including the discussion on things like counter-strike capabilities. So we're delighted to have you back here to talk about the implementation and the way ahead. Next to him is Otsuka Taku, also a member of the LDP, representing Saitama Prefecture in the House of Representatives. Otsuka-san serves as the vice chair of the LDP Policy Research Council, played an integral role in developing the plans for Japan's new strategy, and has previously served as chair of the Security Policy Committee in the House of Representatives. He is also a former banker and has served as State Minister for Finance. I'll be interested in your perspective, Otsuka Sensei, on the budget increase and the taxation issues that are very much front and center. And finally, on the far left, we're joined by Kokuba Konosuke, also a member of the LDP who hails from Okinawa and represents a proportional representation bloc for Kyushu in the House of Representatives. So Kokuba-san is the head of the LDP's National Defense Division and served previously as Parliamentary Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Brings a very unique perspective, I think, on the alliance as a representative from Okinawa, and we look forward to hearing this discussion on issues related to force posture, the U.S. presence, and cooperation between the U.S. and Japan in the Southwest Islands. So what we'll do is I'll invite each of our speakers to offer a few minutes of opening remarks. Then we'll do some Q&A from here, and then I'll save some time for questions from the floor as well. So to get us started, may I invite Onodera Sensei for some opening remarks.
小野寺と申します。どうぞヘッド。
This is Onodera. If you can use your headset to listen to my comments. I would like to thank Mr. Hamre and Mr. Johnston for a wonderful opportunity. Last year, in this very place, I was talking about the national security strategy that was compiled by a Liberal Democratic Party at the time. At that time, for the first time after the war, we were discussing the position of counter-strike capability and also expansion of a defense budget. And while we were discussing that, the question was if Japan was actually going to make that kind of decision. And I remember that question from the audience. And last December, the Japanese government accepted this strategy and also largely, or decided to largely increase the defense budget. This budget has already been passed the diet at the end of March. So we're going forward in that direction at this point. The many strategies and policies related to security is something that we need to go forward with. In order to go forward with that, the cooperation by the U.S. is indispensable. And as part of that, Tomahawk and other standoff capabilities will be implemented as well, and that has already been decided. Now today, we are discussing about what to do going forward now that we have this in place. After our visit to the U.S., we'll go back to Japan, and with Mr. Otsuka and Mr. Kokuba, we will discuss two more themes that are important. One is the transfer of equipment, and another issue is the improvement in our cyber capability. This will be discussed within a diet so that we can gain more capabilities that is necessary today. So now I'd like to discuss a little bit about the transfer of defense capabilities or defense equipment. For a long time, Japan has been establishing a friendly relationship with other Asian countries. And from these countries, Japan is requested to transfer the defense equipment. In the past, we've been asked many times. For example, for sea lane, Indonesia, and Philippines are very important for Japan and other countries. And for these countries, it is important to enhance the Coast Guard to protect the country. And they want the vessels for that. Japan has a high capability in Coast Guard, so they are requesting the equipment that is related to that. But even though they want those capabilities, those vessels actually are equipped with artillery. And Japan considers that arsenal, and we're not able to export these vessels because of that. But if you think about it, the capabilities of these countries to enhance and to enhance the capability to maintain a peace on the coastal area will contribute to the peace and stability of the region. So we have to think about that going forward. I think that is an issue, and we will be discussing that issue within Japan. And related to that, countries like Ukraine are suffering from illegal invasion by another country. So there's going to be a lot of needs associated with that. And what kind of support can Japan provide is another issue that we need to discuss going forward. This month in Japan, there's going to be a summit meeting in Japan by G7 members. President Biden will also visit Japan. And President Zelensky of Ukraine will participate online. While G7 countries are supporting Ukraine together, Japan will have to think about what kind of requests will be made by Ukraine to Japan, and another big theme for Japan to consider going forward. We really need to think deeply about defense equipment, especially because Japan has a relationship with Asian countries as well as African countries. And if you think about the situation where Russia invades Ukraine, even though there is a common understanding that this is not acceptable, there are countries that can voice their opposition to such invasions, and there are countries that cannot. For example, countries that are that buy equipment from Russia. If those countries continue to rely on Russia for provision of equipment, then they will not be able to have a strong stance against Russia in the future as well. So that's something we really need to think about, not just Japan, but also like-minded countries, including U.S., will have to think about how we can together support these countries going forward. In any case, Japan, as a peace nation, will not change its stance. But countries that try to change status quo by force will have to be considered, and we have to make strong stance against it. The current Ukrainian situation will have to be avoided in Japan. Japan cannot be in the same situation going forward. And we will not change that position going forward.
Sensei, I think the really important topic of the future of Japan's ability to transfer equipment, defense equipment to partners. I'm sure we'll come back to this in the discussion. Thank you. So, Otsuka Sensei, let me invite you to offer some opening remarks.
Thank you. I'm Taku Otsuka, and I was formerly serving as the director of the National Defense in LDP, his Kokuba-san's position 2 years ago, or when we started the discussion on the significant increase on the defense budget. And nowadays, the priority number one strategic goal for Japan and the United States is and will be for decades to deter China, for sure. And if we fail to achieve this goal, the results will be disastrous. This may lead to the Third World War, and it will result, at least for sure, the end of the international order under the United States hegemony. So this message is clear for us to prepare for the potential crisis on the Taiwan Straits and East and South China Sea. And we have to send a clear strategic message to China not to take a wrong course. And in order to achieve this primary goal, Japan has changed its national defense policy drastically last year, or maybe this year, last year. Anyways, so we have the will to be the power of stability in Indo-Pacific. And in defense build-up program, the expenses based on newly concluded contract for next 5 years amount to 43.5 trillion yen. And that is 2.5 times larger than the last one. Some of you may notice the number of the 43 trillion yen, and that is based on the annual budget, the sum of the annual budgets for 5 years. The number is different one from the I mentioned, 43.5 trillion yen. That, I think, the more important number. And strategies and plans have already been decided. It's a big challenge for Japanese government and industry also. The Ministry of Defense and Self-Defense Force people are really keen and really understand the importance of the implementation. And so they are now focusing on the steady implementation of this plan and strategies. And the necessary component of the deterrence is the US extended deterrence, of course. And last year, the Russian invasion to Ukraine sent a shockwave to East Asia, primarily for 2 reasons. The first reason is that a big nuclear-armed UN Security Council members, permanent member country, directly and bluntly invade other country to pursue its political appetite. It was shocking. And the reason number 2 is perhaps more serious. The United States seemed to be hesitant to help Ukraine when in the face of nuclear threatening by Russia. As a result, among Taiwanese people, credibility of US intervention in the Taiwan Strait crisis plummeted to the half, and South Koreans started thinking to get their own nuclear weapons. This week, actually yesterday, I think, the President Biden and President Yoon met here in DC, and it's clearly a positive step to improve, revitalize the credibility of the extended deterrence of the US. And needless to say, extended deterrence only works when potential enemies believe it will work in contingency. Recently, Japan and the US ministerial meetings also share deeper information than before. We have to continuously strive to improve the credibility of our extended deterrence further. And the current strategic environment also requires us to deepen the cooperation in advanced technology and economic security. Japan passed the economic security law last year and now is preparing the security clearance law. I expect those legal frameworks help to deepen our technology cooperation. And lastly, I have to reiterate the importance of the strengthening ties with allied and like-minded countries. Some of these countries tend to be independent, partly because of the economic coercion from the mainland China. So maybe we need to prepare some solution for those partners to feel secured from those economic coercions from the mainland. Thank you.
Thank you, Otsuka Sensei. Kokoba Sensei, what remark would you have to start us off?
はい、衆議院
Hi, my name is Representative Kokuba. Thank you very much for this very important opportunity. Currently, I am the Director of National Defense Defense Research. So thank you so much for Otsuka-san for leaving this very important post for me. So I have been in this position for a while, so I have come to understand very important things. And then so the Japan's three security documents is very touching on the southwestern island chain looking from Kyushu. And then so I think that defense of these islands is very critical for us. So of course that the Taiwan Strait is also something impactful for Japan's national security as well. And then so we would like to see a very clear commitment coming from the United States, and also of course that the support coming from Japan's self-defense forces as well. So Kyushu and Okinawa, they have experienced the Battle of Okinawa in the past very well. So because of this experience, so that left us very bittersweet sentiment against war fighting. So that means we're a deeply pacifist population in Okinawa. And then so Mr. Otsuka left this position for us to give my perspective on Okinawa and also have Okinawan voice heard by the national government. And then also the United States is implementing Marine Littoral Regiment, and also Japan Self-Defense Force is working together so that Japan can implement these three security documents into reality. And then so I'd like to mention a few things. Regarding Okinawa, in the past 10 years, this includes the tenure of Mr. Onodera's defense minister, and then so Amami and Miyako, and then they have seen a lot of build-up in terms of the defense capabilities, and then also for 2025. United States Marine Littoral Regiment is going to be implemented. And so I think that's something positive to Japan, and also for Japan to have very secure defense of the southwestern island chain. We need to think about, of course, coastal defense, and then also we need to secure the supply chain of ammunition and also rear end support for our defense as well. And then also salty wind causes a lot of corrosion on the defense equipment alongside of our coastline. So we need to think about a very good plan for maintenance of this type of defense equipment and also resiliency. And then also island defense is very critical because we need to think about the territorial integrity and also what it means for the protection of our citizens. And then regarding Yonaguni and then also Ishigaki, so the population on these islands, they are very wary of any invasion or invasion into our territorial waters and also territorial lands. And then so for us to give a more sense of safety and also security to the Japanese people, the Japanese government and also the defense ministry and also self-defense forces have been working on doing some simulations, what kind of defense will be effective for our land. And for us to think about acquiring standoff defense capabilities. So for Okinawa, actually, none of the local leaders accepted to host any type of standoff capabilities in Okinawa. So that is the current situation. Mayor Nakayama of Ishigaki City, he mentioned that he would host such a standoff capability in his city. That is only conditional because that will be only to defend and also protect the citizens of the city. And LDP and then also the Communist Party of Japan came together with Okinawan local leaders regarding securing and also strengthening Japan's defenses, that because we received 5 missiles coming into our EEZ last year and also in the recent days. So I'd like to move on to the second topic. In the 3 documents, I really wondered and also challenged myself so that we can include Okinawan people's perspective here. And I think that missile defense needs to be very much included in this in these documents. And then so I made a request so many times. However, when we think about China-Japan relationship, I think there are some oppositions coming from the part of the Japanese population because Japan and China still have very active economic ties between us. However, Mr. Onodera, his leadership has been very effective in terms of having the public understand how much of threat is coming from China and also especially onto Okinawa. So I think that Okinawa can offer a very clear and also meaningful perspective in terms of how we can strengthen Japan's Okinawa overall. And also Mr. Otsuka, he started Taiwan Strait Peace Conference, and of course that Japanese government does not have a normalized diplomatic channel with Taiwan, so that is why LDP can play a really important role so that we can have a more meaningful working relationship with Taiwan directly. And then there was a comment that was very interesting, that we were able to have a 2+2 type of conference with Taiwan, 2+2 type of conference together. So within this conference, we recognize the threats coming from China that may be cyber capabilities and also actual conventional war fighting as well. And also, cognitive warfighting is one of the threats as well. And then also, there was some comments regarding differentiating Ukraine's situation and also Taiwan. So we need to think about what kind of differences we may experience there if there should be any Taiwan contingency. We have to think about the acquisition of defense equipment as well, and then also we need to think about non-combatant evacuation planning as well. And then, so these are some of the important perspectives that we should not forget. Moving forward for next year, Taiwan's presidential election is coming up, and in my previous position, I really thought about what kind of Taiwan implication will be if there should be any type of political change in Taiwan. So at that time, there was a discussion regarding 3 Ds. First one is deterrence, second one is defense, and then the third one is defeat. And then so these are going to be very important keywords for the presidential election moving forward next year. And then so when it comes to defense, there was some opposing voice to those 3 Ds. However, it is important for us to continue the discussion and also conversation between Japan and also Taiwan. And then I think that 1D we need to think about is, of course, to have dialogue. So dialogue is going to be a very critical key word. And then so by having this kind of common dialogue, we'd like to achieve deeper understanding of Japan and also Taiwan mutually. So that is going to be my opening remarks.
Let's transition to some from up here. I'd like to start with some broad questions, if you will. And Onodera Sensei, maybe I'll start with you. As we move into the implementation phase of Japan's national defense strategy, Japan announced plans to acquire, I think, 400 Tomahawk cruise missiles in the next few years as the first step in developing a long-range precision counterstrike capability. Technical discussions between the United States and Japan about how to support this capability are getting started. But in the meantime, the security environment in the region continues to be very challenging. China's military activities around Taiwan, coercion, North Korea continues to advance its missile and nuclear programs. So my question is, are we doing enough to advance deterrence? This is a significant step that Japan has taken, but are we doing enough together? Are we moving fast enough? And what more can we do to strengthen the deterrence picture in East Asia?
今回の日本の
The decision made by Japan this time around, this was a big decision, but it should have been earlier. That's how I felt for some time now. So finally, we are able to do this now. We are exclusively defense country. So under that policy, we have not had equipment, and also sorry about the counter-strike. So we're not able to develop this counter-strike capability overnight. This is the reason why we have collaborated with the U.S. to implement Tomahawk missiles, and that was the decision that was made out of that. But this is the first time Japan will implement this system, and also capability to gather information, and also the operation will need U.S. support, and that's indispensable. So the defense of Japan has been and will be conducted by the cooperation between Japan and the U.S. But because of our change in our policy, Japan will have more important roles in this cooperative defense relationship. So the support of the U.S. Is indispensable and continue to be indispensable for the peace and stability of East Asia. As Mr. Kokuba pointed out, we have a U.S. bases in Okinawa, and we have a lot of support stationed in these bases, and we would like to continue with a good relationship with those military stationed in Japan.
President Yoon, South Korean President Yoon's visit to Washington. He was here last week. The two governments signed the Washington Declaration, which, as you noted, included a number of steps to strengthen extended deterrence, including by increasing deployments of strategic assets and through the creation of a new mechanism called the Nuclear Consultative Group. I wonder if you could say more about how you view these steps, and what more do the United States and Japan need to do together to strengthen the credibility of extended deterrence for the Japanese people?
Well, as I pointed out, the yesterday's meeting is a clear positive step for the strengthening the alliance. But it seems there might be some difference in interpretation of the declaration for both governments. So I'm not quite sure for the time being that South Korean people, whether they stop worrying about the credibility of the extended deterrence or not. But actually, it's a positive step, so I evaluate this as a very positive one. And for Japan, and the 2+2 meeting share the deeper information than before. as I pointed out. But still, I need to step forward to strengthen our alliance capability, credibility, for such as sharing the actual scenario of the Taiwan Strait crisis or the Senkaku crisis, and in accordance with the escalation ladder, how to move the both government together to cope with the nuclear threat from the China or the DPRK, and we need to train our not only the SDF people but also the politicals in the face of those nuclear crises. That makes our alliance much stronger.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Kokuba Sensei, maybe I'll turn to you. I appreciated your description of how Okinawa views the security environment, Japan's defense strategy, and cooperation with the United States. You know, in the 2+2 statement that the United States and Japan issued in January, the statement references plans to increase training and exercises, including in the Southwest Islands area. So there's an American dimension to this. I wonder if you could say more about what can the United States do to sort of help the Okinawan people better understand the security environment, the importance of the alliance. How do you see our role in implementing the national security strategy as we go forward?
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for the question. In the last 10 years, in Yonaguni, Ishigaki, Amami, and islands, we have been deploying SDF forces, and it has been completed. So up to 25 Marine Littoral Regiment will be deployed here as well. So that's something to come. And the citizens of Okinawa has understood the importance of deploying SDF, but going forward, if Marines were to be deployed in these areas as well, the information was given to them and understood the possibility for the first time at 2+2 timing this year. So there's going to be a lot of issues surrounding that. For example, in Okinawa, Okinawa has been returned to returned to Japan in 50 years ago. When the SDF came into Okinawa, because of the history, there's a lot of struggles. But the SDF has helped us in the humanitarian rescues and rescues operations during the disasters were given by SDF. And so we have better understanding of SDF. And regarding the American military, there's also understanding of their support by Okinawan people through the, for example, Great East Japan earthquake. And they now understand that the needs for littoral regiment to be deployed in Okinawa. And I think the understanding such as that is quite important going forward as well.
Sensei, and maybe we can talk a bit more about sort of the implementation now of the defense strategy. Let me raise the key issue that you brought up, which is this question of defense equipment transfers and sales. I know, as you said, when you go back to Tokyo, the discussions on this will intensify. And I think there's a lot of interest here in the United States on the degree to which Japan will further loosen the restrictions on arms exports and equipment transfers. I wonder if you could give us a sense of the timeline for this discussion. What do you think will be the ultimate result? And in 2 points in particular, the question of Japan's ability to support countries in conflict and Japan's ability to transfer lethal equipment. Would be interested in what you're able to say at this point. I'd realize that we're in the thick of these discussions now.
That's something that we are going to start, so I won't be able to really foresee the discussion result at this point yet. Especially, it's not just LDP, but we also need to coordinate and discuss with opposition parties as well. So that's quite important as well. So we can't really foresee the conclusion at this point yet. However, as I mentioned earlier, something that is positive to security of Japan, for example, something that would protect the sea lane around Japan, and to provide support to those countries that would contribute to that is quite important. And equipment related to that, for example, would be the vessels for coast guards. This is not to attack the other country, but it's more about protecting your own coast. It could be pirates or invading forces. But in any case, this is for the protection of the country and also maintaining the peace and stability of the region. So if that is for the purpose, then even if there is a vessel that is equipped with some kind of arsenal, we should be able to provide such equipment. Also, another point is that the discussion has been between Japan and the U.S., but Japan is also considering the joint development of such equipment. Next generation fighter jet is one example. We're working with the UK and Italy. And equipment through joint development could be exported to other countries than those three. So that means that we're going to have a framework for the system of export. So we will have numbers of discussions related to the actual cases. We have a working team in the LDP and the ruling parties, actually, and I'm the chair. We can't take too long to discuss, but we can't also be hasty either. So we have to really think about the timing, and so that we can reach some kind of conclusion in the end.
About given your background in the finance world, Japan's defense budget is going to grow by something like 60% over the next 5 years. 25% increase in the current year alone. That's a lot of money in a short amount of time. Are you concerned at all about the Defense Ministry's ability to absorb this increase in resources and to allocate it wisely? How are you thinking about oversight from your position in the Diet?
Well, this time's the 43 trillion yen budget is the maximum level of the absorbable budget for the thinking the capability of the Ministry of Defense. So my answer is yes, they can absorb this amount. But the former your question asked to the Onodera sensei was are we quick enough to move? So perhaps I think that we need to revision our build-up plan in accordance with the development of the risks about the Taiwan Straits and East China Sea. So for the first step, we are now trying to develop our production capability of the defense industry. But it's a tough challenge for defense industry because after the sleeping several decades, we quickly build up the capabilities. But if within 1 or 2 years, if it gets go smoothly, and we can find some window to develop more capabilities, we need to increase more. That is my opinion. How to finance is the other problem, and it causes a great discussion among the not only among the parties but also within the ruling party or LDP. So we are now trying to minimize a portion of the taxation because the Japanese economy itself is now in the critical point. We need to revitalize our economy to survive this risky era and with a smaller population. So we want to avoid tax, but need to have some tax items to finance this.
Yeah, let me pick up on that point maybe and ask Kokoba Sensei this, and maybe this is a hard question, but so exactly to your point, Japan has a lot on the policy agenda, right, that will draw a lot on fiscal resources. In addition to the defense spending, there's an ambitious child care agenda for the Prime Minister. And so that does raise the question about the sustainability of the defense bill. Kokoba Sensei, how do you think about that? How is this build-up sustainable? How can the LDP and the leadership sustain the support of the Japanese public for the significant increases in defense spending that you've announced?
はい、とても難しい。
Well, thank you very much for this very difficult question. So Japan is looking at the next 5 years to increase to 43 trillion yen or so. However, this is only partially going into the defense capability. And then so that means that we need to defer some of the list items into the future years to fund. And then also, even if we acquire defense equipment, we need to have more time to train people and also be able to deploy them and also integrate them into our defense capabilities. And then, however, Taiwan contingencies risk does not wait for us to be fully equipped. So that means that self-defense force that was established in 1954, we need to keep evolving ourselves so that we can capture new threats and also new domains for us to grow in capabilities. And so we are currently in the era of doing all the homework that we did not do in the past. And then so that means that we need to think about supplying enough fuels and also ammunitions and also other types of support capabilities. We used to ignore this point for a long time. For us to be able to fully equip ourselves, we need to explain this to our public or citizens. So that is our accountability. And then, so we are currently looking at the next 5 years so that we will be able to, or we should be able to achieve what the self-defense force and also Japan's defense needs to be in an ideal situation. So that is why we are hoping to have this expansion of defense budgets, and also we would like to gain and also garner a public understanding.
To the audience. And this is to come back to the issue of Japan's defense industry, which was a major focus, of course, of the national defense strategy, strengthening Japan's own defense industrial base. And in addition to loosening the export principles, as we've discussed, the government is also pursuing a number of other policies to make the defense industry more attractive, larger subsidies, larger profit margins on contracts, other measures to stimulate the industry and to prevent second and third tier suppliers from leaving the industry. Are these measures enough? How do you see the revitalization, if you will, of Japan's defense industry? What other steps do you think are necessary to ensure a truly competitive, internationally competitive Japanese defense industry? Maybe I'll invite any of you, but maybe Onodera Sensei? Yeah.
まず今回の新しく
Thank you very much. I'd like to mention some legality that came in effective with the three security documents regarding tiers 2 and 3 in the defense platform. So if there are willing parties in these tier 2 and also tier 3, if they're willing to play a bigger role, then Japanese government is committed to support them moving forward. And also we're considering putting in government stakes into these smaller companies if they're willing to play bigger roles in this defense platform. And also for them to secure enough funds to be able to sustain their businesses, we're thinking about establishing a fund so that these tier 3 and also tier 2 companies may be able to export or transfer their technologies and also equipment as well. So I think this is going to be something different comparing to our past. And also, we need to change our perspective moving forward. When I was the defense minister, so the self-defense forces members who contributed to Japan's national security, and those were awarded and also recognized. So this was not only limited to the self-defense forces, but this kind of incentives were open to private companies as well. However, defense part was somewhat hidden when these private companies are awarded for their technological ingenuity. So I think that we need to put that forward so that having defense capabilities and also technology is not something that we have to hide in the future. And also we use so the second half of what I just mentioned is not really approved by the Japanese government. I think that that kind of change is very much needed.
Let's open things up. Please introduce yourself and keep your comments short. Kevin, we'll start. Oh, wait, there's a microphone making its way to you. Sorry.
Kevin Mayer from NV Consulting. A quick question about defense exports. You know, as the G7 comes up, there's going to be a lot of focus, as Onodera-sensei said, on how to support Ukraine. But there are things that Japan could, putting aside policy restrictions, provide that would be very influential in changing the situation on the battlefield, like the SSM Type 12 surface-to-ship, surface-to-first missile, the CHUSAM, the mid-range air missile defense system. Is there any possibility that you can change your export policy in time to make such contributions? And I ask this I think back to 1990 during Desert Storm and Desert Shield before that, where Japan could only make financial contributions, therefore did not get much political credit. So Japan has made tremendous progress since then, particularly last year. But sometimes I think, have things really changed?
Tough question.
ここで
So whatever I may say on this question, that might impact Japan unexpectedly, so I want to be careful about this. And of course that Japan would like to do as much as possible within our limitations. And then so you pointed out some of the levels that we may have to reach very quickly. That may not happen very soon. So please take this as my personal opinion. So if there's a country who is invaded unlawfully, then that means that as a government, Japan must support this type of this country. So by doing so, if Japan should be falling into this kind of unprovoked, under attack of this unprovoked invasion. So that means that we will be able to garner more support from the international community. And then, of course, that we have done some support by sending Kevlars and also helmets and then also other types of protective gear. But this might change in the future. But changing that is a very difficult discussion for us. And, of course, we will do as much as possible at our best efforts.
Good morning. My name is Dimitri Sevastopoulos. I'm the US-China correspondent of the Financial Times. I have a question for Otsuka Sensei. You were talking about economic coercion, and you've been talking also about Japan helping Europe with the Ukraine war. At the G7, Europeans have an opportunity to repay the favor to Japan in terms of language on Taiwan, on China, on economic coercion. What would you like to see the G7 statement say about China and Taiwan in particular, but also about China and economic coercion? Thank you.
Well, actually, I'm not involved in the preparing for the G7 meeting, so I don't know what is really going on the table right now. But I personally expect that we have sent a clear message to the Russia and China for both that they cannot achieve the goal with those military conflict and economic coercion, those kind of things, to get their political goals. And for G7 members, my idea is to provide some counter-economic coercion alliance type of solutions. For instance, some of the countries, like-minded countries, are coerced by the China and Russia. We together retaliate to those coercing countries. That might secure those countries' positions economically. That is my idea. And the other portion I expect for Japan's leader is it's a bit politically complicated things, but we need to provide ammunition and weapons to Ukraine, because we have those ammunition and weapons that are just waiting to be iron scrap. There are words in Japanese. I'm using the interpreter. 困った時はお互い様っていう言葉と、あともう一つは情けは人の。
So we should not give too much mercy because it might not work in your favor. So that's a proverb that we have in Japan. So what goes around comes around is another way to explain that. So I think that those two sayings may be a good way to explain.
Japanese phrases. That's it.
Okay. Great. Yes, right here in the second row.
ありがとうございます。元世界銀行に勤めて、
I used to be a World Bank member, and also I was part of the energy industry. And then, so my name is Mr. Takahashi. I have two things. First thing is that Russia, China, and also North Korea, they have hyper cruise missiles and also very much of a strong strike capabilities. And then they have precision equipment as well. So if those countries are using very precise weaponry and also hyper speed missiles and also any firepower, that means that Japan needs to do more to intercept those type of attacks and also equipment. I am not in a position to understand the defense capabilities that Japan currently has, but comparing to Japan, I'm sure that the United States has more military power. So I'd like to hear how the United States helps Japan with Japan's counter-strike capabilities. I used to be staffed in Myanmar. At the time, it was a peaceful time under the leadership of Aung San Suu Kyi. However, any senior levels of her administration are now jailed. So there was some criticism against some defense exercises going on in Myanmar. I think that Myanmar is losing its spotlight because there are other national security issues going surrounding them. So, for example, China and also other Asian countries. So this is not just specifically on defense, but what I want to say is that Myanmar is forgotten because of the situations in China and also Russia. So what can Japan do for Myanmar is something that I'd like to hear, and also what kind of defense issues that you think about when it comes to Myanmar.
Maybe you could also address the question, what do you see as the long-term vision for Japan's strike capability? I think, of course, in the instance of the Tomahawks, the vision is for cooperation with the United States and integrated capability. Do you think Japan will ultimately seek an autonomous, independent strike capability? Maybe you could address that as well as part of the answer to his question.
まず制度が政府が決定している。
First of all, Japan has already decided to have the counter-strike capability. So that's already been decided. And based on that, Japan is also carrying out R&D. But it will take time. So this time we decided to implement Tomahawk. In the meantime, one of the reasons for this mission really to explain how we are planning for this, and also to really learn about the excellent technologies in the U.S. so that we can have a collaboration relationship between Japan and U.S. So through this mission, we really want to contribute to enhancing both capabilities in both countries. Mr. Kitaoka is here today, so maybe he can speak to that. Well, Myanmar is a very significant issue. However, it's been hidden because of the Ukraine situation. Another difference between these two situations is that Ukraine is an international invasion or invasion by other country, but the Myanmar is a civil war. Since other countries do not go intervene into conflicts within a country, other countries are not really doing much around it. So we have to think about how much we can do to really spread the damage. And another thing is that from Japan's perspective, we should accept more refugees from the country. Right now, we are discussing the revision of immigration control law. And we are sort of discussing the quasi-refugee status in this discussion. So we should really accept more or a larger number of Myanmar people. But of course, how to counter military support given by China and Russia, that's probably very difficult because of the international law and other areas.
I was
appointed the president of JICA in 2015. You know, Myanmar is definitely a very difficult issue. I had been telling to Ms. Suchi, do not haste, because you know it's the political situation in Myanmar has been very fragile, and there was always a possibility of coup d'etat from Myanmar military. So I was telling her to make very flexible and to make more compromises on it, but actually she didn't listen to us. On the issue of military education, we have not been, actually under my leadership, we expanded our cooperation with Myanmar military by accepting young people to provide general education on international affairs and so forth. Because it is very important from my background of a military historian that the worst thing about Japan's pre-war military was that those soldiers and sailors did not have enough knowledge and common sense about international relations. Therefore, providing a common education, education based on common sense on international relations was very important. So I wish we could continue, but it is very difficult. On the general people, I sense that the sentiment of the general people in Myanmar had changed quite a lot, say, compared to 20 years ago. People are very angry, still very angry. And then, therefore, we do not like to continue our cooperation as it used to be. Still, you know, there are many people who are suffering from disease, lack of education so far. So we are very much willing to provide some cooperation for basic human needs level, but not beyond that. That's, and also our approach has to be based on some cooperation with other countries, friendly countries like Singapore or Indonesia and so forth. But actually, this is a matter to be handled by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs rather than JICA.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this has been terrific. I think a real privilege for all of us to have the opportunity to speak with such a distinguished group, really leaders of Japan's defense and national security strategy at an unprecedented and dynamic time. So I hope you'll join me in a big round of applause. Thanks for listening to Otsuka Sensei and